To the Score Sunday. Greg has left. Camille has joined us, and we're going to talk Iowa high school football. And I always like to think it's the MAC. It's not the MAC. It hasn't been the MAC for a number of years, but I always think it is the MAC.
Yeah,
and
it's
a
always
lot of it's always going to be the MAC test. So let's start with one of the teams that was one of the best in the state of Iowa last year, ranked number 1 at one point. That was Pleasant Valley.
Yeah, special season for the Spartans last year. They go undefeated, and then they get that home playoff game in the first round, and they fall in the first round, kind of surprising. But when you have a school like West Des Moines Dowling come in, it's a school that people, maybe the record wasn't great, but it's one of those schools that is always a really good football team. They came in, surprised in Pleasant Valley, and they lost a special senior class. They lost a lot of guys that are going to be playing football on Sundays at either Division I level, Division II level, all that kind of stuff. So they have a lot to replace, but Rusty's excited about that team, how good they can be. Coy Kipper got some time at quarterback. He's got to replace McDermott from last year, but has a great knowledge of the system, been in it for a while. Joey Van Wetsinga, they lose Rusty Jr., but not really Jr., but little Rusty. And Joey's just absolutely blown up. He's been fantastic. He's going to the University of Iowa as well. I think he's going to have a special season. They got athletes in the backfield. The Lion boys are back in the backfield. So it should be a good season. They have a really tough schedule. They will be battle tested when it comes to the postseason this year because they're ready for anybody, their best shot when it comes to the season. So, but their first game is an interesting one because it's over at Bettendorf. So I don't think in my 22 years doing this that they've ever had a week opening game between Bettendorf and Pleasant Valley. And you visited Bettendorf this week. Not making the playoffs isn't acceptable over at Bettendorf, and that's what happened last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I went over there last week. Coach Aaron Wiley honestly was super blunt, and he was like, last year was unacceptable.
That is Coach Wiley. He's very blunt.
I mean, I think I asked him, so how did you think last year went? He was like, oh, it was terrible. I mean, he didn't sugarcoat it. They know 3-6 isn't the standard of Bettendorf. But good news for them, they returned Charlie Zimmerman. He's now a senior. When I talked to him, he did talk a lot about Elijah Mendoza was his number 1 guy last year. So he's still kind of trying to find his number 1 guy this year, but he did say he feels like compared to last year, they have a lot of depth at the wide receiver and running back positions, so that could potentially, hopefully help them make the playoffs this year.
You got North Scott when it comes to those powerhouses in the Iowa side of the river, and North Scott reloads once again.
Yeah, and Kevin Tippett, when he took over the job a number of years ago, he said, we want to be one of those teams that they talk about every year in the state, and they have been. I mean, they made it to the Dome for a second time in the past 3 years. Didn't win that game against Xavier, but played a pretty good game. They won the game against Waverly Shell Rock to get there. Was kind of surprised, not themselves, but a lot of people outside the state or outside the area. One thing that they have is Kyler Girardi. He's back. He's a Division I commit to North Dakota State. Brings with him 2,800 yards from last year, over 30 touchdowns. It's a great starting place on the offense. Their problem is they lost a lot of their skill guys. They lost their running back, so they're trying to figure some of those things out right now. And on the defensive side of the ball, when you lose a Borcher and you lose a A.J. Peterson, again, some guys that they're trying to figure out. But the one thing they have is that they have a lot of those juniors that were backup roles. They're ready to fulfill those spots this year. Sure. Coach Tippett says, don't be surprised if they win a district this year.
I went to visit Assumption, and it was another not acceptable. Like, they didn't make the postseason last year. And you look at the big picture, you're kind of surprised because it's a tough district that they play in now, but they haven't made the postseason 3 of the last 5 years. And so, but this is a group that they're really excited about. Familiar names. Timmons is back. Angelo Jackson's back as well. Bauer Caspers is back. So they have those talented kids they've been kind of pointing to for this year. It should be a good season for Assumption. I'm excited about the Knights. I think they're going to have a good season. They'll be back in the postseason and just see how good they can get. Maybe one of the best players in the conference is down in Muscatine. I know you went down there. Ty Kozad's going to get all the headlines.
Absolutely, and deservingly so. He was the leading rusher in Class 5A. He was the person who had the most yards from scrimmage last year as well, and everybody knew he was going to get the ball, and he still did what he was able to do. And he's starting to get some Division I scholarship offers. I think he says he's up to 30 right now. He's starting to fill things out, but they're going to start and end with Ty Kozad.
We each visited a Davenport public school. I'll start with you at West because a special season, but a lot of change since last year.
Absolutely. Their winningest season in program history, right? 7 wins. But they have a new head coach. I mean, Dominic Nunn, was an assistant. I think he said 2 or 3 years. So a lot of the kids talked about the transition. They said the transition's really been great, and a good thing for them is they're not having a guy that came from maybe a rival school, but they're having someone that was already on the staff. So the transition's been pretty smooth. One thing Coach really talked about is, yes, last season was great, but let's create our own identity this year. So I think that's something they're really focusing on. They lose Brady Hansen, a senior quarterback last year that I think had 23 touchdowns. I mean, a lot. But they have a senior quarterback this year too, Luke, who they're expecting a lot from as well.
And over at Downport North, obviously they lose Nolan Mosier, 3-year starter there. He went on to the Division II level. They're trying to figure out quarterback right now, but they have 24 seniors, and Adam Hyde is very excited about this group, and their schedule is very favorable this year.
Davenport Central, a big coaching staff of familiar names, and I think they said they're up to 15 assistant coaches. Alex Berg took over last year. They only won a game, but it's kind of that formula where a lot of young kids played a lot of football last year. They expect to take that next step this year and maybe another step after that. So we'll see what they can do this year, but I know they're expecting to take a step forward when it comes to how they can do in district play and then maybe in the postseason as well. So a couple teams we didn't talk a lot about. Central DeWitt made the postseason last year. Expect them to be good once again. We have a preview of them on our website, WQAD.com, and also Clinton as well. I know you went up to Clinton, another team looking to build after a slow season last year. That one you can find on our website, WQAD.com as well.
So we've hit halftime, still ahead. We're going to talk some small school football on the Illinois side. That's coming up next on The Score Sunday.